I gotta admit, one of the most interesting 7 members of all time has to be the Paradigm. Even though for a lot of seasons we didn't know much about her, but in present day she is probably one of the most important Fortnite characters in the whole story. Anyway, this is part 2 of my 7 series. Please like and subscribe. And okay, let's get straight into the video. So to start the Paradigm story, we have to go back to season 9, but first let's just go through some other minor details about the Paradigm. So there are main 2 versions of the Paradigm. The one on the left is the OG Paradigm version, which hasn't been seen in the item shop for ages. I'm going to call it Chapter 1 Paradigm. And the Paradigm style on the right is like the Paradigm style today. It is the Chapter 3 Paradigm. So yeah, and both of those Paradigm outfits theme around the color of light blue. Now the Paradigm originates from Reality 659, and which in the Fortnite Chapter 4 cinematic trailer, you could see that some of the pieces of her reality is actually in the Chapter 4 map. It's like the snowy biome. And now, did you actually know that the Paradigm is voiced by Brie Larson, which she is also in Fortnite herself. She's an extra soul for the Paradigm. Oh, I just want to say that the Paradigm is not Singularity. They're not the same person. The writer of Zero War confirmed it, so yeah. Now the first thing I'm going to talk about is what happened before the Paradigm was even a skin in the game, and this was before season 9. We don't know the actual date this was, by the way. So the Paradigm was found by the Imagined Order, and then she was prisoned by them. The Origin was also in that prison as well, but I'll talk to you about why when it's time for his video to come out. But in season 9, some very bad news came to the Imagined Order. There was a monster who was living inside Polar Peak, and he has now escaped, and he is now floating around the island in the water. This was very bad news for the Imagined Order, because if they had that monster touching the 0 point, then they would be doomed. Now luckily for the IO, they had someone called Singularity. Now Singularity was instructed to build a mech to defeat the Polar Peak monster, but she knew how to build it, but she just didn't know how to pilot it. Now the Imagined Order actually knew someone who could pilot the mech, and that was the Paradigm, aka their prisoner. Now the Imagined Order made a deal with the Paradigm, saying that if you pilot this mech, then they would free her out of the jail. And of course the Paradigm said yes to this deal, leading up to the final showdown. Now in the final showdown event, the Paradigm didn't actually do that bad with piloting the mech. The Paradigm did actually well with fighting the monster, as she did also kill it, but in between this event, the Paradigm did something bad. The Paradigm used energy from the 0 point to knock out the monster. After that, the Paradigm then flies off to the ice moon with the mech. And even though Paradigm defeated this monster, and you may think it's a good thing, it was really not, because it was leading up to the end. The 0 point was at the verge of exploding and blowing up, so the rest of the 7 members are in the end live event just stabilizing everything, but then the meteor hit the 0 point and everything ended, leading in to Chapter 2. Can I just say, in Chapter 2 there was absolutely no sign of the Paradigm, only in the Chapter 2 Season 7 Imposters game, which I spoke about yesterday, but she wasn't even in the end event or anything. So she was technically useless in Chapter 2. Right now, she was never actually seen in Chapter 3 Season 1, she was just heard of. I mean, in the season quests, the scientists will send notes and talk about the Paradigm, trying to bring her back. Here is something that the scientists said.
Hey, Paradigm, it will not surprise you to learn that you remain public enemy number 1 for the 7. I'm trying to convince them to welcome you back with open arms, but I can't promise that it'll be a cakewalk if you come back. I'll do what I can, and this time, I'll have your back no matter what, like I should have the first time.
So the Paradigm is a friend to the Order, the Imagined, and the Scientists, but to the others, she is kind of hated. I mean, she did something really bad. She was playing around with the 0 point, and this would have put the 7 under a lot of stress. But now, let's move on to Chapter 3, Season 2, where the Paradigm kicked in a lot in this season, especially in the end live event, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So in this season, there was no scientist voice lines about her. She was mainly just in Zero War this season, so now I'm going to talk about it. So the Visitor had a plan to bring back the Paradigm and her mech, because basically the IO were attacking even more. So Iron Man Foundation and Visitor visit the crashed mech on the ice moon, and they do actually find the Paradigm. everyone was very surprised because it is very hard for her to survive in these cold habitats, but she was in her suit, so I guess so. The Foundation disses her and still thinks she is a traitor. But then the Seven had a plan of how the Paradigm could rebuild the mech on the Ice Moon to defeat the Collider, aka the Imagined Order's final weapon. Oh, and I forgot, the scientist made a new suit for the Paradigm. But then collision came. Now in the collision event, we heard the Paradigm's voice for the very first time. I'm going to show you a clip of the collision event where the Paradigm speaks.
Weapons team, listen up. Today, we're going to put an end to the Imagined Order. For good. Our target is their weapon system, the Collider.
The Paradigm then pilots the mech onto the Fortnite island, and we are now fighting above and below. The Collider then self-destructs, and we are left into this underground IO base. The Paradigm is in the mech, and the mech breaks down for a bit, but then the Paradigm smashes Dr. Sloan, making her disappear for 3 seasons. Now the Paradigm doesn't make the biggest appearance in season 3, but towards the end she does. So the Paradigm and Amy realize that some other 7 members are leaving their helmets on the ground because they just disappeared somewhere. This was one of her voice lines.
I found the scientist. He's in his underground biolab researching that strange substance spreading across the island. The visitor is there too, along with the Origin. We've been asked to find and bring some 7 gear to the lab. It sounds like we're going off grid.
But before this, the Paradigm found us a really emotional message from the scientist.
Listening to this, it means I'm gone. I don't know where they took me, and I don't know if I'll be back. I promised we'd never leave you alone again, and I promised freeing the 0 point would be safe. Everything's my fault, so whatever happens to me, I deserve it. I programmed Amy to take care of you and whoever's left. I hope there are people left. I'm sorry it ended like this. I've always...
In that clip, the scientist said, "I always loved you" to the Paradigm, but there was a static and he was then cut off. So now this confirms that the Paradigm and the scientist are now in some kind of relationship. Right, now let's move on to season 4, where the Origin, the scientist, and the visitor have been chromed and consumed, but the Paradigm made it out alive. She managed to avoid all of the chrome surrounding her, but then she went in Loot Lake into the 0 point to her reality, which is reality 659. So the Paradigm is still out there, and now she is giving tasks to Jones and Amy on what to do. This was one of our voice lines in season 4.
Survivors, this is Paradigm. I don't know if anyone can hear me, but I have to try. If you're out there, send me a sign. You're there. You can hear me. I have to keep these transmissions short, but I'll send everything I know. Stay safe. And listen, there will be no second chances here. The Nothing is...
So the Paradigm was going to say something about the Nothing, but then she was cut off. Oh, and just reminding you that the Paradigm was the only member of the 7 in Chapter 3, Season 4. But now as Season 4 is coming to an end, the Paradigm gives us this message.
I know it's hard to understand why we need to keep fighting, especially when we won't win. Ask Jones about the Loop Breaker project. He thinks it's confidential. It's not.
But now it's too late, and now it's time for Fracture. The Herald touched the reality tree, making it into chrome, and the Loopers have failed to defeat her. She then consumes herself and Reality Zero, the whole of Reality Zero. So now it was only left to the Paradigm and Amy. The 0 point was then collecting parts from different realities to make a new island. This is called Zero Fusion.
Energy signatures look good. Amy, if you ever see the scientist again, tell him I understood the risks of Zero Fusion. Our survival is more important than my survival. Keep that 0 point gassed up and wish me luck. Everyone. I hope to see you on the other side. It's been an honor. Initiating Zero Fusion.
The Paradigm then initiates Zero Fusion, which the 0 point rapidly, and I mean very rapidly, takes parts of realities, some of reality 659, and some other realities as well. if you think about it, if it wasn't for the Paradigm, we would never be on the Chapter 4 island. So it is kind of her being like the hero of the story, I guess. But now all of realities are fusing together to make the Chapter 4 map. And after this, we never saw the Paradigm again. We don't know where she went, but she'll probably be back soon. For now, she's like the main member of the 7 right now. Forget Foundation, forget everything. She is the most important in the storyline right now. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry it came late. Like part 3 is coming out soon. Please like and subscribe, guys. See you guys later. Bye.